Hey everyone! On today's Walking Coast to Coast with Kariah, I'm chatting with Barbara Ryan Harris, the heart behind St. Mary's Magazine and the Little Theater. Let's dive into her amazing story.
How are you today, Barbara?
Cut like a new file. Barbara Ryan Harris here, and I actually the founder, the publisher of St. Mary's Magazine. St. Mary's Little Theater, I'm also the founder of that, and I direct a lot of the shows. I write a lot of the original shows. My preference, my love is music. Came here 2004, and I bought the Good Bread House. And real quick story, I came here to write a story about the train at the time. I was hired to do that. And the first time I was here, I stood in the median strip in front of the Good Bread House, and this incredible sense of awe and just serenity came over me, and I've never been like that. I'm like a girl, that looks like I'm moving even when I'm sitting still. I'm always going 5-year plans, so it was stunning to me, absolutely stunning. Second time I came here, I stayed in the Good Bread House, and for the first time in 25 years, I slept throughout the entire evening. Anyway, fast forward, I ended up buying the Good Bread House. Never in my life wanted a bed and breakfast, but I just fell in love with St. Mary's. It was just such an extraordinary little place, and the people were phenomenal. And I'm from the South originally. I'm from North Carolina. So I truly felt like I came home. That was 2004. People, the history, the people, the water, Cumberland Island. But I would have to say the people, they're just, full of grace and graciousness and Southern hospitality at its finest. We're constantly reaching out, and you're going to learn more about that from Ms. Vicky, who's our marketing director. But we are constantly reaching out to the community to ask them to get involved with the magazine, to suggest stories. And every time we have a magazine, I have a big party in the community. Most of the community is invited. The mayor speaks. This is 2 times a year. And I tell people, this is your magazine. It's your community magazine. Please be a part of it. Same thing we say for the theater too. So, we're constantly reaching out to the public and ask them to be involved. And many of our stories, are born from suggestions from the community. And visitors too. Visitors have input. Visitors love the magazine. Well, I tell them to stay overnight at the Good Bread House and be treated to an incredible Southern breakfast and the hospitality of the proprietor, Marja Gray, we've been best friends since we were 19 years old. So I got some stories. So I'd start there, say you have to go to Cumberland Island, and then take a golf cart tour around town. And there's just so much history here, just stunning history. Goes back to, centuries. So, but I would start at the waterfront, stay overnight at the Good Bread House, go to Cumberland Island. Those are the 3 highlights. I think when I first started the magazine, because in Fort Lauderdale, I own ad agencies, public relations, so I knew how to launch a product. So when I decided to write the magazine, and I really just, it was a whim. I'm like, I gotta tell people about this magical place. Anyway, when I decided I'd launch it with a launch party, right? So I did. I had this huge party, and the whole community was invited, and it was open bar, and I had this Rod Stewart act look-alike, and we had trumpets welcoming people. You could see the spotlights from Jacksonville. It was just huge because I knew how to throw a party. That was my business. And it was great. People loved it. And then a few months later, somebody said, when's the next magazine coming out? And I said, in July. And they said, when's the party? Long story short, I've been kind of forced to have a party with every magazine, but I do love that story because the reason I love it so much is it tells you the ownership from the community and how they embrace the magazine and how much they love it. And when we print the magazine 2 times a year, we don't let anybody see it till that party. And there you have, a couple hundred people, just can't wait to have it unveiled. So it's like an unveiling every time. That's kind of my favorite story. It's so funny because after the first magazine, I wrote about Orange Hall and the Submarine Museum and Cumberland Island, and, the icons of St. Mary's. And people said, well, what are you going to write about next? Okay, that was 38 issues ago, and I have a stack, an editorial waiting line this thick of things to write about, because it's like I say, our town's not very wide, but it sure is deep. So I always try to include a feature on history, a feature on adventure, and I always write a publisher's note that speaks to an attribute that will make you fall in love with St. Mary's, and that's why so many people who read the magazine end up moving here. Embrace progress, but retain what we have that makes this place so incredibly welcoming and so attractive. You know, people don't want to live in big cities anymore. And we are at the end of the road. When people say, oh, I drove through St. Mary's one time, that doesn't happen, because right across, when you go to our waterfront, the next stop is Florida. You look across the water to Florida. So I tell the people who live here, embrace what you got, appreciate what you got. And people do. Some people don't want anything to change, but we do want progress, but we want progress that embraces our history and our culture and our traditions. And for the most part, most of our population absolutely answers the call to all those things.